to the latest edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Cassidy Jo Fortin. Today, we are sitting down with a woman who has not only founded her own organization, but also spends her time empowering women to reach their full potential. Please welcome Rupsi Burman. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cassidy. It's a pleasure being here.
No, we're excited to have you. Let's go ahead and get started with you telling us a little about yourself.
Sure. I was born and raised in India, in an industrial town which is slightly north of the city of Calcutta.
Okay.
And I went to school. I went to basically an Irish Catholic school. The institution was run by Irish nuns. So yes, my early exposure to English and, other languages. And then, of course, I came to the United States in 2000. And I got my MBA. That was my second master's, my MBA from North Carolina. And then moved to California and haven't looked back. So, yeah, it's a lovely place to be, I have to tell you that.
Oh,
so,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then you actually started your own foundation, the Hope and Life Foundation.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little about that?
Sure. Hope and Life Foundation was started in 2013, and in July of 2013. Now, if you remember, in 2012 December, there was a horrific gang rape incident, which was there was a girl most people don't even know her name, but they called her Nirbhaya, and Nirbhaya is a word in English. It means fearless.
Okay.
So this woman I have never met in my life. I will never meet her, of course. She passed away after that horrific incident. And she is my inspiration. And I just cried for like maybe 4 or 5 months. And then she inspired me. And that incident inspired me to start something to end violence against women. And Hope and Life initially started to end just domestic violence and violence against women. And around that time, this whole Title IX and the Title IX violations and all that started to come up. So I thought it was the perfect time to get into something that would help to end violence against women. That's how we started. But however, we have, now we are doing a lot of other things. And so we've moved into education of children. We educate children in Africa and in India.
That's great.
We are also doing ending bullying programs in Southern California, where we go into the classroom and we talk to children and do workshops with them about ending bullying, basically explaining to them that there is a correlation between abuse and bullying. If you grow up seeing a lot of abuse at home, you will become either a bully or you will be the victim of bullying. So, just making them understand these things. We also work in prisons. So we work inside and outside of prison. I've actually delivered 3 projects in India with prisoners in India. And I also do some work at the CIW, which is in Chino. That is the women's prison in Chino. So we do a lot of things. And of course, Cedaw, which I know we are here to talk about. So we do a lot of work with Cedaw too.
That's great. So you get to do a lot of stuff both locally, nationally, it sounds internationally. That's really great.
Yeah.
And then tell me a little bit about your involvement with the Women's Intercultural Network.
Oh, that is one of the best organizations I have, met in my life. And the women at WIN, let's just call it WIN.
Okay.
So Ilahi Amani, she is the strongest global leader who I think I have met. And then, of course, you have Marilyn Fowler, who, in 1995 is when WIN started. However, I only joined WIN 3 years ago. I wish I had known them, much before.
Better late than never.
I know. And just their leadership, their concepts, they're trying to empower women and girls all over the world, whether it is by the internet, virtual surroundings, or, actually they are doing this and they are running with it, and they have done a lot of work. And I'm so proud to be a member of WIN.
Good.
And I love going to their seminars, their conversations we have. It's all about women empowerment, and it's something that is very close to my heart.
That's really great. And then you also give talks and discussions
Yes.
about women in leadership, and I'm sure a lot of other different things. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, actually, just a week and a half ago, I was at UC Riverside, and I had been invited by them to talk to them again about to students about Cedaw. And Cedaw, actually, do you know what Cedaw is? It's the United Nations Convention to end all forms of discrimination against women.
Right.
So we talked over there. It was like a 50-minute speech, and there were like 150 to 200 students.
Wow.
And it was, I think, I was able to motivate them to come and join the grassroots movement.
Good.
Because Cedaw is really not, the United States did not ratify Cedaw. So we have our struggles. And what I think is when young leaders such as yourself and others that I meet, when you understand the value of Cedaw, I think you see it as something that you can run with. And you are the future leaders.
Right.
So if you understand what Cedaw is and if you have the passion to take it forward, our job is done. Elahi's job is done. Rupshi's job is done. So, so we need to bring up that kind of, inspire you, our future leaders, to take Cedaw and move it forward.
Well, that's great. Can you tell me a little bit about the history of Cedaw? How did it get started and what it is exactly?
Sure. There was a Universal Declaration of Human Rights that was adopted right after the Second World War in 1948. And then you have the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, and the Second Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And these two were adopted by the General Assembly in 1966.
Okay.
Now, these were actually helping in the making of Cedaw in the future.
Okay.
There's another thing that I have to mention, and that is that the Commission on the Status of Women, which is a very strong organization in the United States, they came into being in June of 1946. This commission basically was responsible for bringing up Cedaw. So what happened was in 1976 and between 1976 and 1979, those 3 years, the group got together to prepare the verbiage for Cedaw.
Okay.
So 3 years went into the work of preparing Cedaw language and the articles and all that good stuff.
Yeah, just really making sure it was right.
And then on 3rd September 1981, the convention entered into force. Okay. But that is the global part of Cedaw. Also what happened was President Carter, he was very deeply involved, and he's always been an advocate for women's rights and all that, right? So he was actually at the forefront running with Cedaw in the United States. Now, it is a sad story that the U.S., Iran, Palau, Tonga have not adopted Cedaw. So out of the 195 United Nations states, member states as we call them, 189 member states have adopted Cedaw. They have either ratified it or they are in the process of ratifying it. However, the United States, the most industrialized nation in the world, has not done that. So, yeah. So that's a little bit about the Cedaw history. And then, of course, we had the Commission on the Status of Women at their 58th session. They actually went ahead and in 2014, in New York City, under the leadership of Young-Yoon, they went ahead and initiated the grassroots movement, which is called the Cities for Cedaw program. Right. So you have Cedaw and then you have Cities for Cedaw at the grassroots. Now, what we are trying to do is if we cannot get the states to ratify Cedaw, we are trying to gain momentum at the grassroots level.
So work your way up.
Work our way up. You got it.
Very nice.
So that's what we are doing.
And so how exactly can Cedaw be beneficial for women?
That's a very good question.
Or just people in general, I guess, too.
Yeah. So Cedaw actually stands on 3 legs. I call them legs because one is there is something called substantive equality. So, and there is another thing called ending discrimination. And then there is the state part, which is the legislative part.
Okay.
So these are the 3 legs on which Cedaw stands. And you cannot do one without the other. Okay. So we all understand what ending discrimination is, right? So we want men and women to be equal, equal pay for equal work is what we call it.
Sounds simple enough.
Yes, yes. And then we have the substantive equality, which actually talks about the protection of women in a certain way. And then, let me give you an example. It's easier to understand. So if you have women working in a factory with men at night, then they could be subject to violence, sexual violence or something like that. Now, if that factory has laws that protect these women, then it becomes a part of the substantive equality. Okay. So they are laying policies about how men and women should behave when they are doing a night shift at that factory. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is that they are also giving women maybe some kind of mode of transport to get them to and from work at night, because night is a different story, right? So that explains the substantive equality part. And then you have the legislation part. So the government, there is the legislature, the executive, and then you have the judiciary. So between the three, we have to come up with the way that there are legislation, there are laws that actually protect the rights of women.
Okay.
And for that, you do need both female and male representation at that level where the laws are made. Because not all men understand the needs of women, and not all women are able to explicitly explain their needs. So men and women have to work together at the legislative level, and then the executive executes it, and of course the judiciary deals with the violations from it. So yes, so that part also has to come together. I think it's high time that the United States stepped up and came together to, enforce this. We are getting there. We are really getting there. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to, like you said, men maybe can't make the best decisions for women because they don't know exactly what they need. If women were making decisions for men, they'd probably
do the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'd have some questions and be like, wait a second, but do you know what we need?
Yes.
So,
and another thing that I would like to say is that women are half the sky. We all know that. So if women are half the sky, then why cannot women be part of the legislature, part of the executing team, and part of the judiciary?
Right.
We need more women to be represented out there. I mean, even if you look at the history of the United States, exactly how many women are in corporate America at the top, at the C-suite? You know what I'm saying, right? So,
exactly.
Yes, so we need more women, and women help women. And in this case, with Cedaw, I think men are also understanding the value of bringing women up. They have mothers, they have wives, they have they have daughters. So it makes more sense to empower their family members so that they can be at that level where they can actually run with Cedaw or reap the benefits of Cedaw in this case.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of explaining it.
Yeah.
And then recently, the city of Laguna Woods just passed Cedaw.
Yes.
What was that process like? How did they go about doing that?
Oh, that was, I'm actually the chair of the Orange County Task Force for Cedaw implementation. And in that role, I meet with, sometimes I meet, mostly it is via email. I reach out to all 34 mayors of Orange County and, of course, work with their council people to bring it on. So in this particular case, our advocate was Sherry Horn, who is a council member of Laguna Woods. So she met us, and she had such an open mind, and she has very good contacts in other cities. So she said, hey, you know what? I like that you're talking about Cedaw, because Cedaw means equal work for equal pay for both men and women. And she understood what that meant. And I have shared this with the city of Irvine and with Costa Mesa, everywhere. When women get, say, equal pay as men, women spend more than men. So that money rolls back into the economy.
I never thought of it that way, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so see, when you increase household income by empowering a woman by giving her equal pay for equal work, that money is actually rolling back to the economy. So how hard is that to understand?
They're getting the money back.
I know they are. And so that is exactly what I'm trying to sell to these people. And also the ending of sex trafficking, because Orange County has had some really upsetting incidents of sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Right. And we need to step up and stop this. So our approach was end violence on campus. Let's talk about Title IX. Let's talk about what violations of Title IX mean. Then let's talk about women empowerment through economic empowerment, social empowerment, and then let's also talk about ending sex trafficking. So these are the three things and how we approached the city of Laguna Woods. And then their mayor is another wonderful human being. He let us do our presentation, and he was like, he read all 30 articles of Cedaw.
That's great.
Yes, he did the homework.
He was serious about it.
Yeah, he was serious about it. And Sherry Horn and her other council person, they presented it. He was on board with it. He said, we should have done this sooner. And he congratulated the team, and there we were. We just brought the resolution in. Yes, they have to still do the second part of it, which is ratification. But yeah, we are still working with other mayors and council people, as I mentioned earlier, to bring them on and bring them up to speed with Cedaw.
And the fact that he said, we should have done this sooner,
Yeah.
it probably just goes back to the whole people need to know what Cedaw is.
Yes,
if they
you're
know that
absolutely
it's
right.
out there and the benefits of it, then they're more than likely, hopefully, to pass it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And then in your own opinion, just why else do you feel CEDAW is important to be passed, not just at the city, but I guess at the state and the national level?
So just going back to what I had said earlier, CEDAW is taking responsibility. You are taking responsibility for the safety of women. You as the executive and the legislature are taking responsibility for the education of women. You as the executive and the legislature are taking responsibility to protect women from labor trafficking, from sex trafficking. So these are responsibilities that you are taking. And if you are not passing CEDAW, somehow it tells me that you are not wanting to take responsibility. And that is where we are coming in. That is where Soon Young comes in. That is where our global leader Elahi Amani comes in. That's where Marilyn Fowler comes in. That's where Karen Milhauser comes in. So all of us are actually in it together because we want to make sure that our legislators and our executive team understands that there is nothing to lose when you empower women. When you educate a woman, you educate the next generation. So it is important that our team, our leadership, our executives understand that. And it's a dialogue. Maybe it's not, we've been fighting for CEDAW since 1981. And the U.S. needs to do a little more work. And leaders like yourself and all other leaders at CSU Fullerton and everywhere, all our young people are going to step up and going to take it.
Right.
When they see that we are half the sky, but we don't have the rights of half the sky, I'm sure they're going to step up and take it to the next level.
Right?
Yeah.
And then do you have any advice that you'd like to share to women or even just people in general?
I see immense leadership potential in the women and girls who are coming up.
Okay.
I see that, and I can tell you, if your generation understands what CEDAW means, you will want to empower yourself, not only yourself, but everybody else around you. And what I think as good leaders, you should never give up. We've been fighting for CEDAW for over 37 years now. We need you to take it to the next level. And I see that grassroots movement, the Cities for CEDAW program that started in 2014 has gained momentum. I mean, look around you. City of Los Angeles, City of Santa Monica, City of West Hollywood. I mean, everybody has implemented CEDAW. City of Berkeley has, and so everybody is moving in that direction. It's a matter of time. We will get to the Senate, and we will have them adopt CEDAW at some point. And it's only with leaders like yourself. You are so smart. You guys are so educated, and you have so much potential. It is going to be a success. I'm absolutely certain. Yes, it may take time.
Right.
But it will be successful.
It might take time, and we do have to start from the bottom, but that doesn't mean we can get to the top.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very nice.
Meet with your council people, talk to your mayors, bring them on campus, ask them, what is it? How can we help you implement CEDAW? What are your fears? What are your questions? And then you bring us, who have been doing it for a while now, and we answer their questions. It's just dialogue. More dialogue needs to happen. And never give up. You cannot give up.
Very true.
You cannot. It's like a dream, Because when you are empowered, I'm empowered. Each woman is empowered in this country. This country has 50% male and 50% female. Yeah. So, it's good for everyone.
Yeah.
It's really good for everyone.
Definitely. Yeah. And then you keep saying how they should get involved.
Yeah.
How can they get involved, whether it be in CEDAW or any of the other organizations you mentioned today?
Yes. WIN is something that you could reach out to. They have, all these organizations have memberships. Hope and Life Foundation does not have membership, but you could still work with us. Now, when I say work with us, what I'm basically saying is you need to reach out to your council people. talk to them about Cedaw and try and see if they would need more questions answered.
Okay.
But you are the ones who are going to meet with them and tell them it's time we bring Cedaw to our cities. There are templates available, so we can provide you with the templates of the resolution. So let the cities first pass the resolution, which means a resolution is nothing but, hey people of my city, I'm committing to doing this in the near future.
Okay.
And then the ordinance comes in, which comes in a little later, where the city is now committed to protect and promote the rights of women.
Okay.
So it has two parts. So move in with the resolution and get that approved and get the city to focus on it. At the same time, universities like, California State University, the UC system, you can work on gender studies and you can show the city that, hey, the city currently, let's say, hypothetically speaking, the city has 80% male representatives and only 20% female representatives. So your gender studies could actually show them the value of bringing the 20% up to 50%. And then, just balancing it out. And then work on the second stage, which is when you're giving a male director, $200,000 is, annual salary, give the female director of another division the same amount.
Right.
So that's step two. But first is you tell them that let's pass the resolution. Let's get your commitment on doing this in the near future. And then you start working on these things. And you show them the value. You remember the substantive equality, the ending the gender discrimination, and the passing of the laws. Then you incorporate all three, and then you get them to adopt the ordinance, pass the ordinance, and be committed to the safety and protection of women and girls.
Very nice. And then is there anything else you would like to add or mention about anything?
I just want to make sure that young girls like yourself step up and take Cedaw to the next level. And we have to be more aware of what's coming down, whether it is this administration, the past administration, or a future administration. We need to be aware of our rights. We need to speak up for our rights. We need to unite for our rights.
Right.
And most importantly, men will always be part of the solution. Inclusivity will render success. Do not exclude men from your equation. If we are half the sky, they are the other half. So we have to include them, and we have to make sure they understand our needs. So the dialogue has to be there.
So don't be afraid to speak up.
Don't be afraid to speak up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all the time that we have for today. I'd like to thank our guest, Rupsi Burman, once again for being here. If you want to learn more about what was discussed today, then click on the links provided throughout the video. Until next time, I'm your host, Cassie Jo Fortin. Thank you for watching In Focus.